Welcome to part 1 of the No Mods, No Glitch build tutorial of the Starlight Scrap Manufacturing Facility. This build was featured in my Starlight Drive-In Settlement Tour and uses manufacturing build items from the Contraptions Workshop DLC to build items for your settlement. If you missed the tour of my Starlight Drive-In, I'll put a link to it in the description. Although it looks complex, the factory operation is fairly streamlined. Junk items are fed into a conveyor storage and then circulated to a component sorter. Items not needed for the production are recycled into a continuous circle to give the appearance of an active factory. Items needed for production are sent to the builder, where the items are molded and then stored for use. This portion of the build will focus on just the factory part. The building structure will be built later in part 2. This tutorial utilizes the Wasteland Workshop DLC for the factory parts, the stairs, and the floors. However, stairs and floors from Far Harbor DLC can be used as well. So with all that out of the way, let's get started on the build. The factory takes up a lot of space. You can use any foundation that you want. The number of floor tiles and the layout that I used for my build are shown here. If you don't want to build the building that I made, I would recommend a minimum foundation size of 6 by 7 tiles. All of the parts used for the factory can be found in the Power Manufacturing section of the Workshop menu. Start by placing a conveyor storage on roughly the center of the second floor tile. Align the second leg with the edge of the floor as shown. Don't place this any closer to the outside edge of the floor, or you will have problems installing the walls later. Place a vacuum hopper perpendicular to the back side of the storage conveyor. This unit won't snap to the storage conveyor and should be placed a little left of center using the floor tile as a guide. Snap a conveyor belt with a power junction to the storage conveyor. Snap a conveyor belt lift with a base to the vacuum hopper. Use the one that the junk goes in and out the same direction. Install a hopper over the powered conveyor belt. Find the spot where it snaps to ensure proper placement. The exit door for the hopper will open to the conveyor belt. Snap a component sorter to the top of the outlet on the conveyor lift. It will only snap on one side. Snap a hopper to the back exit of the component sorter. Make sure that you snap it all the way to the left. Although this is optional, I suggest that you check to ensure that nothing is placed too close to the foundation edge to prevent walls from being installed. Snap warehouse walls along the edge. Place a half warehouse wall on top to ensure that you have enough clearance all the way up. If something doesn't snap or you're not happy with the amount of clearance, remove and store the hopper, the component sorter, the conveyor lift, and the 2 walls behind the vacuum hopper. Move the vacuum hopper forward, further away from the outside edge. Check for straightness and then snap the conveyor lift, the component sorter, and the hopper back in place. You should be able to easily snap the pieces in place if you move the vacuum hopper far enough. Snap a long conveyor belt without a base to the open side of the component sorter. Snap a hopper to the conveyor belt, snapping the hopper on the rightmost side. Position this way will allow clearance to place our next part. Place a right turn conveyor belt under the back hopper. Move it back so that it is close to the leg on the front hopper as shown here. Ensure that it is also aligned with the hopper exit. Snap a long conveyor belt with a base to the L-shaped belt. This conveyor will be under the hopper exit door. On the other side of the L, snap a powered conveyor belt. Next, snap a conveyor belt lift. Use one that the junk items go in and out the same direction. Snap a long straight conveyor belt to the top of the conveyor lift. The belt should fit over the top of the hopper that we placed earlier. Returning to the front, we're going to start with this hopper. Slide the hopper forward to the opposite snap points on the same side. Position a powered conveyor belt directly under the hopper. There is a very small area that the game will allow this to be placed, but it should be automatically properly aligned. Snap a builder or forge of your choice to the powered conveyor belt. Here's a list of the builders that you have to choose from. Next, snap 2 left turn conveyor belts. Snap a conveyor belt lift with a base. Select the one that items go in and out in opposite directions. Attach a short conveyor belt to the top of the conveyor lift, followed by 3 downward ramp conveyors. Finally, at the bottom of the ramp, attach a roller downward ramp. The mechanical part of the factory is now complete and ready to be wired up for operation. Add stairs and a few upper floors to allow access to the components that are on the upper level. The floors will snap directly to the hoppers and then to each other. The location isn't critical at this point. They may need to be moved later when we begin the building in part 2. Directly wire all of the parts that require power. Here is a list of everything that needs to be wired directly. The game has 2 terminals that can be used to control the factory. Connect one terminal anywhere on the same electrical line that is also wiring the factory. It doesn't need to be where I placed it in here. This is just a convenient area for the video. I'm using the terminal that came with the Vault-Tec DLC because the display is a little easier to see, but the other terminal will control the factory just as well. On the terminal menu, choose Builder Control, and then select the item that you want to build. Today we're going to make plastic pumpkins. Select plastic pumpkin from the list. The necessary components to build the pumpkins will be displayed on the next screen. It looks like we need 4 plastic for each pumpkin. Head up the stairs to the component sorter. This is where we'll add ingredients needed to make our product. Add 1 plastic to the sorter. For your factory, you'll add whatever components that you need. They have to be in the form of a component such as plastic, steel, leather, springs, etc., and not in the form of a junk item like a bottle, lamp, plate, etc. The sorter will send junk items with components needed for your product on the belt to the right. All other junk items will be deposited in the hopper in the back. We can start production by depositing junk items into the conveyor storage. Junk items will be removed from the storage conveyor by the vacuum hopper. They're then conveyed to the component sorter. For our pumpkins, junk items with plastic will move to the right down the hopper. From this hopper, they will enter the builder, and when the builder has 4 plastics, it will mold a pumpkin. The pumpkins are conveyed upwards and then lowered into what will be a storage area when we build it in part 2. Junk items not containing plastic are deposited into the other hopper and then drop down onto the conveyor belt. Here's a better view from the other side. The junk items are then conveyed back up and drop down onto the conveyor belt that leads to the storage conveyor, and the unneeded junk items are continuously recirculated. This gives the appearance of a continuous factory operation. And that concludes part 1 of our factory build. In part 2, we'll build the warehouse around the factory. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time.